Hi, I'm Andy Brack, and I'm the founder of Quanteam, who are a specialist recruitment and staffing business in the quantum ecosystem. I've spent the last 30 years working in the staffing and recruitment sector, and I've recently started the business. And during that time, I've spoken to lots and lots and lots of CEOs and board members of different quantum organizations. One of the people I had the pleasure of speaking to was Robin, and it'd be great, Robin, for you to introduce yourself today.
Yeah, thanks, Andy, for having me. Yeah, I'm Robin Wittland. I'm the former CCO of Planqc. It's a startup from Munich, Germany, as a spin-off of the Max Planck Institute, founded 2022. Before that, I was 7 years at Microsoft as a business unit lead, and before that, I was also have the capabilities, also the possibilities to really grow up a company in the German mid-market for IT infrastructure and hosting ES, PaaS, SaaS, and also a partner ecosystem around 3,000 up to 50,000 partners in the European region. So from this standpoint, so happy to be here and to ask, or maybe let's talk about something what's relevant for you.
Yeah. So one of the things, as I mentioned earlier, I've spent the last 3 or 4 months speaking to lots and lots of different CEOs, from quantum startups to larger quantum organizations on a global basis. And I'm talking to them about, like, where does the money come from a quantum perspective when you are still heavily in the R&D phase. And when I'm talking to people, they're talking around lots of the money comes from universities or academia, or they're gaining additional sort of revenue streams from government grants or government institutions. And what really surprised me was how little people were talking about enterprise customers, because for the past 30 years, most of the money that I've seen coming into any tech organization has been driven by the enterprise ecosystem. And really, it was when I spoke to yourself, Robin, that you were one of the first people that I spoke to where there was that real clarity and priority on enterprise customers from a quantum perspective, not just now, but also in the future. So what I'd like to discuss is where you see the future of quantum going from an enterprise customer perspective, and what quantum organizations and quantum startups should be thinking about today.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this you are spot on. So I think the majority of the investments for the different startups is coming currently from grants or investments around local fundings from the local area. It looks like the country fundings, or maybe also the European fundings. When you talk about Europe, looks there are investments around Euro HPC, where they are invested for purchasing some different quantum system for different HPC centers. And there are a lot of grants outside for developing quantum algorithms. I think there's a lot of things done right now. I think this was also relevant, and I think this will be also in the near future a relevant source of funding for different startups to really build up an own muscle and own IP to get an own identity. I think this is absolutely right. I think there's nothing against it, and I love it. So it's finally it's something on deep tech what is relevant, that to really build up a strong European Union on this technology. So on the other side, I think it needs to be clear that we will going further into the next 3, 4, 5 years up to 2030, 2035, where we see different roadmaps with products and quantum systems with a relevant size of fault-tolerant logical qubits, which have maybe also an impact for enterprise customers. And we also know that enterprise customers need maybe also the right software and the right algorithms, which are maybe tackling the right problems. So, and I think the clarity around, because finally, when you only wait up to the moment when the hardware is there, and then you try to jump on the train, looks like this moment, what you maybe remember from the AI side, when you have in this November 2022, when OpenAI have launched this new technology more or less on a scale or in the capability which are so impressive that enterprise customers really show up, look where I am with my AI strategy. So I think this momentum is relevant. So what I want to say is here that there is time going, which are needed to build up the right systems. But on the other side, you need to invest as well into this technology from the enterprise side to validate it. I have defined a slide here with 5 topics, which maybe is helpful to talk about it.
Yeah, that would be great if you'd like to share it, because
yes, I can do it.
Yeah, I think when I was based on my conversations, and it's very difficult to get this information, but in general, what I found was about 20% of the revenue from quantum organizations appeared to be coming from the enterprise customers. After speaking to people like who work in the ecosystem at a senior or strategic level, and it was that figure that really sort of surprised me. So you're there thinking there's got to be a huge future and a huge roadmap for quantum organizations to build out the enterprise revenue stream. So yeah, it'd be great if you could talk us through this slide.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's super relevant to understand. There are some enterprise customer outside. I don't want to say there's no customer on the enterprise side where is relevant, engaged, or investing by themselves to develop something what is relevant for them. So, but on the other side, I think the majority of the enterprise customers are not really on the levels. Roughly 50% of the customers have maybe an own engagement, look in the direction of some researchers, strategists, and so forth, and also visibility on the C-level. So, and from this standpoint, I think it makes absolutely sense to go to the slides, maybe with the first point. This is something what is maybe also in the direction what you are asking about. I think you need to look internally on the enterprise side to better understand where the customer is currently. So from this standpoint, so you need a C-level approachment. So there is an accountability and a responsibility on the enterprise side from the C-level, but also from the board to validate technology for an enterprise customer. So you need to understand technology. What is the implication of the technology on your business, on your company, on your organization in the mid and long term? So from this standpoint, you need to catch up on this side. This needs sometimes also the need that you need to skill up the C-level for what are the foundational implications of quantum technology for your organization. Not really in the complete depth, but as in the direction of a full understanding around the technology, what is the implication on, especially on the industry where the customer or the enterprise customer is. Then you need to pick up maybe also reskill people and define a strategist in the company. Strategist in the direction of they need to have an understanding not only as a PhD in the direction of the physics or quantum mechanics, they need to have an understanding around the business implications. So, and the organizational structure. So from this standpoint, you go further and then you have an outcome internally that you have clarity around. There's a stakeholder on the C-level, which is relevant for them. So you need also maybe a yearly engagement also with the board to really present where you are, what you have found it out, and maybe where you want to invest. And you need the internal team which are working on this thing. I think this is the first point.
Having worked at board level, boards tend to be interested in what's the problem that we're trying to solve, what is the benefit going to be for the business, and ultimately what it's going to cost me. So from a quantum perspective, how do you gain that interest? What are the use cases that are going to capture a CEO's or a board's imagination from a quantum perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. I think these are the next one or two steps in this slide. So the next one is more or less you need to identify with a quantum readiness assessment where you are currently. So in the direction also what are the most problems, the highest problems in your company? Maybe what are the classical problems what you have in the computation phase. So, and this goes in the direction that you maybe have a better understanding around which are the problem domains. Maybe is this optimization, simulation, or machine learning? What is the problem class, as an example, that you have an understanding around maybe behind this classical approach, what I have currently. Maybe there's a Knapsack, there's a traveling salesman problem, or there's a CFD problem. And then you go deeper and really analyze in the direction of what is the model, what you want to need. Is it a Cubo or whatever? And finally, also which algorithm is maybe behind all that, which can be helpful to validate in quantum advantage against the classical approach, what you have right now in your company. I think this needs to be done, and I think you need a business understanding around it. What is relevant for the customer right now, where you have your boundaries, where you have a classical approach, which is maybe right now limited for the capabilities, what is normally relevant, and you live with that. But you know that there is a limitation, which can be helpful when you can overcome it. So, and from this standpoint, this is more or less the second one is this analyze opportunity and risk. As I think you need an outcome finally as 2 or 3 use cases. And we talk about use cases in this moment, not business cases, because we don't have an understanding around it. What is the real implication of the ROI or total economic impact of the company? And I think this needs to be done as well. And then we go maybe in the direction of the third pillar.
Okay, so we're at a stage from a quantum perspective whereby people are really invested in the future. You spoke about how AI has crept up on us and literally revolutionized how companies do business today, and the potential implications for quantum in the future, of how that can accelerate a company's advantage once quantum systems are in place is really important. What use cases have you seen within enterprise organizations that have been particularly interesting, or that have captured the imagination of boards within enterprise organizations?
Yeah, look, exactly. So you need to come from this use case to this business case approach. So why is it relevant? What is the value for the company? Because a C-level or a board will not invest in something what they don't have in clarity around, or what is the outcome, or maybe what is the implication of the company. I think there are 3 points which are most relevant here. So the first thing, you need whatever you have on your list with the use case of what you have identified in your company. I think all are valid, more or less. But finally, which of them are more or less the most relevant, where you really make a difference? So how you can differentiate your organization against the competition? So what is maybe an advantage what nobody else has? Maybe think about in the medical space, when you maybe find new treatments in a much shorter time frame by simulating or some molecules or whatever. So I think this direction was an advantage, and then you can make a difference, because you have maybe a much shorter time to find treatments against your competition. Differentiations. The other thing is more or less cost reductions. Maybe you go in the direction of what are the algorithms or classical approaches which maybe can overcome with a quantum algorithm as a boundary, so that we find some advantages here, where we have maybe a possibility to reduce our costs, so that we can go into a leadership of cost against our competition, so that we can earn more money, or maybe we can make more pressure to get more market share against other ones. And the third one is the point to go into the direction of risk. How you can mitigate risk for the organization. And this is super relevant for an organization. So when maybe a competitor will bypass you with a technology which you are not really have validated or have fully understood, so then maybe you have a problem later on, because they are taking share from you. So when you also find out that some algorithm don't have an advantage, it's not maybe a competitor have an advantage as well. Or maybe you can reduce risk, because you have maybe a possibility to run better, more accurate Monte Carlo simulations in finance to find out maybe risk in your entire system. But it's maybe something what is relevant for you. I think these 3 topics. So when you take your list of your use cases and then you validate it against this business opportunities in the direction of differentiation, cost reduction, or maybe risk mitigation. So then you can come out with a better understanding of which are most important for you, or maybe which use cases have maybe the most opportunity for you to really have an impact. And then you can go deeper here to calculate or maybe make an understanding around an assessment. What is the business implication in the mid and long term when we tackle this use case and make it really to a business case for our organization?
Okay, so we've got to the point of capturing the imagination of the enterprise customer, but maybe take us back a step. Imagine I'm running a CEO of a quantum computing organization. How do I actually engage with the enterprise customers? Because what I've noticed over the last 30 years of working with both academic customers, government customers, and enterprise customers is they all operate in a very different way. So within a quantum organization, who should be responsible for the engagement with the enterprise ecosystem, and where have you seen that work best?
Yeah, look, so in the first pillar, we have defined more or less as we have the strategists, what's maybe define the strategy of the company and work along these different pillars. And I think with the next pillar, we come to more or less to this point. So what is the ecosystem which you are working with? What is the consortia which are on partners, what you are finding out, which are relevant and have the right capabilities and capacity to really going with you on your own roadmap, your journey to build up maybe your quantum advantage for your enterprise organization. From this standpoint, you need to qualify what is relevant as a capacity and capabilities on the side of this partner ecosystem. And we only talk about roughly 5,000 people worldwide, which have maybe the knowledge around which is relevant here. And so this is the point also where we talk about today about enterprise. So when the wave of enterprise customer coming to the market and all going through this journey, so finally, so there will not be enough capacity outside and capabilities outside to handle it. So it's relevant to act right now and find out the right partners in the ecosystem. It can be a consulting company, maybe when you around this also as a body for this assessment part. It can be about some quantum algorithm companies which are deep involved with specific algorithm types which are relevant from your assessment for use cases. And then maybe you have maybe some startups as a full-scale startups, full-stack startups, which have on the hardware side also the capabilities around algorithm development and software development. So I think you need some consortia here right now for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 partners which you are working with. You need to probe them with maybe some starting things around validating a quantum algorithm. And then further on, you need to onboard them in your team more or less where you want to go with over the next 3, 4, 5, 10 years. I think to have this onboarding approach, and this is an approach for some years, it's super relevant to really have the right partner ecosystem.
Yeah, so it's having the best possible solution for the enterprise client.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's not nothing. It's the ecosystem of partners is not so involved that you really can maybe choose and maybe also know from your peers which are the best partners outside. I think this is we come from a deep tech space. We are currently in deep tech, so we need development. We need this grant, this investment. On the other side, we have this involving enterprise business or relationship understanding, interest of getting an own roadmap, an own understanding around it. And then you need to onboard the startups in your ecosystem as an enterprise customers with small first steps, maybe a validation of a quantum algorithm, maybe that you are stepping in a consortia with a grant, maybe without a grant that you invest by yourself. and then go further maybe with a much bigger problem zone, maybe use case or a higher integration in the direction of a hybrid or a simulating approach before you step in the full tolerance system, which you can use maybe as a quantum as a service, or later on when you are maybe also purchase a quantum system for your own facilities or data center.
Okay, so then looking at the future, we've identified that there's a huge opportunity in the enterprise ecosystem. Today, it tends to be the identification of use cases that you can utilize and building out some proof of concepts or a roadmap. How do you work with an enterprise customer to help them develop that 3 to 5 year roadmap so that they can take advantage when quantum systems are operational and have surpassed the capabilities of classical computers?
Yeah, I think this is also the reason that they need to act right now. So I think we start in the early of this discussion. We talked about this, that there are roadmaps outside with which are showing up that relevant quantum computer will be accessible in the direction of 2030 with 100 logical qubits, full tolerant, maybe higher. So some back and forth with some roadmaps, but finally there's a huge improvement here. So, but we need to understand that quantum systems are only usable when you have quantum algorithms. So in quantum algorithms, the development of quantum algorithms, especially for your industry, for your specific use case or problem zone, so need maybe the time to validate, maybe to develop, and finally also to implement maybe in the software stack and in workflow and so forth. I mean, you don't do this work before the hardware is ready. You will come to this tipping point of hardware readiness, but no software available. Or maybe yet that you are not ready for this, and everybody maybe will have already spent the money or the investments to validate or to have an own roadmap to be in line with the hardware development, can start and use the hardware in the moment when the hardware will be accessible. So, and from this standpoint, this is super relevant to go in this direction to build up a sufficient roadmap. So, and I think the components, what we have here right now from the use case identification, from the strategic point of ownership on the C-level, having the right team, having the right assessment of the use cases, going to a business use case by validating the implication of the organization, and then go further into the direction of finding the right partner ecosystem as the consortia to validate maybe also the partner have the right capabilities, are they really understand my business, have the right customer centricity, so understand what I want to really achieve, or what is my problem, and they're really supporting me, and then they're also delivering against milestones or maybe something in this direction. I think this needs to be done. And then you have maybe come to this area of, yes, you have clarity around the next 3 to 5, maybe or 10 years, where you have a full understanding around which are you are in control. So you come back in control as an enterprise customers. Before that, you maybe only know there is something outside, but you don't know anything about what is the implication of my company and what is maybe the possibilities, what I can get out of them. So I don't have it. So with this roadmap, I come to a point that I have with my accountability and responsibility as a C-level or board member, I have a full understanding around what is the potential in our organization, how we can overcome it, and where are the right partners, what is maybe the needed invest, and what is the timeline for all of them. So, and how I can leverage it later on. I think this is a super relevant point here.
Okay. I've got 2 final questions. One is aimed at, I'm a board member of an enterprise organization. I've heard about quantum computing. What should I do? What should I do now? Like, you know, what key recommendation would you give somebody who's sat on the board of a large enterprise organization that's inquisitive about quantum? What should they do today?
Yeah, look, I think Skilling is reskilling, upskilling is super relevant here. I think you need to have a fundamental understanding around on the C-level. You don't need to understand the physics, but you need to understand the implications. So, and I think this is a relevant point. I think as a C-level, you need to be engaged with new technologies to validate it, and we talked about it. But it's finally so when you don't have the information, you need to pull in people that they can explain it to you. Maybe it's in consulting on company. Maybe it's in good discussion with peers or a community where you are working with. Maybe you have some internal people which are currently also on this strategic part, or maybe on this transformational part skilled, or maybe you skill them up and they can give you an overview what does it mean for you, but you need to be aware about what's going on. So and then you can go further and build your team in your own company. I think this is super relevant, and then you go onto the journey to build up your own roadmap, which is more or less what I've defined here.
Okay, and my final question is really, and this is after speaking to lots of quantum organizations that are in the R&D stage of developing quantum systems. They're interested in generating revenue with enterprise customers, but not everybody is really placing a huge amount of effort today in terms of generating the relationships or that future revenue stream with enterprise customers in quantum organizations. What advice would you give to a quantum startup or scale up about what they should do in order to maximize their opportunity to build partnerships and relationships with enterprise customers if that's not their priority today?
Look, I think every startup have limited resources. I think the main point is here that they are opportunity driven. So, and first of all, and I like opportunities. So when opportunities come around the corner, and maybe you have a relationship to some people, and then maybe you build up maybe a business case, and you can sell something, it's wonderful. So, and on the other side, they are focused on grants. And I think when you see also the Quantum Act for Europe, which comes right now around the corner, so it will be further invest. Also, the German government will further invest, as an example. I think this flow of grants, investments is an ongoing thing over the next 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years. But it will be maybe not really support your business, and maybe also not support your growth or the interest of your investors, how you want to grow the business. You need to define customer value. So you need to bring up value to the table of enterprise customers, that enterprise customers have a willingness and interest to invest in this technology. And I think there is not really a use case right now, there's not in the near future, which in full integration, which I only can pick and choose, and then we can run it as an enterprise customers. So it will be more an individual approach, often whatever hybrid approach, workflow integration, software integration, however it would look like. But look, I think this world will change. So it's an ongoing approach. You need to build up this relationship because finally quantum algorithms needs to be developed before the hardware is ready. So, and otherwise you will have this tipping point where you maybe lose maybe the traction because you are 1 or 2, 3 years behind of the wave of this new technology because you're not ready. So, and this is an interesting field of an engagement of enterprise customers. I think the majority of the enterprise customers, or maybe 50% of them, are currently on the way to build up some teams or have some teams for quantum algorithm. And but they are often also only waiting for grants, which they can use their own company as a partner in a grant, as a consortium for a grant to support the startup. But as this will change, I think when the business implication is more clear, what is more or less step 3 here, then we come to a point that enterprise customers have an own willingness to invest money here, because they need to catch up with the relevant resources, and they want to not be late when the system will be ready. And we come to 2030, and this is only 4 or 5 years in the future. This is a short time frame, especially for this one. So from this standpoint, you need to build up a muscle for enterprise customers. So I don't want to say that it's maybe you when you choose your capacity to go with 100% of enterprise customers, but when you don't start it right now, you don't have these customers in your upper funnel. So, and you will be maybe lose this ability to really to catch up with these enterprise customers to build trust, maybe have some small early engagements and also a new revenue stream from these enterprise customers before maybe the big investments will come, which maybe will be super important for you. Because finally, when this is going away from you or on the side of you and you don't take care about it, finally, it will be that you come to a point that other ones have done it. And then when you want to catch up, these relationships are already set. So, and when you don't have an advantage here on the hardware side or on something else, so then you are maybe only one of different players in the market. And the players, they have already built up the relationships, should build up the trust. They also show up the capabilities that they can deliver, are the right partners for this enterprise customers to deliver. And to go further with higher investments from the enterprise side, and this will come.
Yeah, one other thing that I've seen very much is like, quantum companies, they start to scale up, and a lot of the initial sales or business development people tend to be deep quantum professionals with PhDs and have got communication skills and have moved into a sales or business development role, but really their core expertise lies in having a deep knowledge of quantum systems, building relationships with large enterprise organizations. It's a different skill set. So as a company or as a quantum organization goes on that journey, at what point do they go from having the deep technical expert talking to other deep technical experts within the organization versus somebody who is familiar working with enterprise customers, identifying the use cases, building relationships? At what point does an organization make that transition from just relying on deep technical staff to actually hiring in professional, expert business development people?
Yeah, look, I think there's in general a need of deep tech companies. They are often funded with this PhD and they are strongly on the tech side. And they will have when they come from crawling to going to running, so they will have a need for bring up people from other capabilities or other fields, looks like HR, purchase, and so forth. And this will be also in the direction of business development, customer relation, go-to-market, sales. I think this is a component what you not can expect from physics. So I think, let us be clear. I think the first deals needs to be done from the CEO by themselves, together with the CTO together, because they are fully involved. They need to understand what the customer want to have, and they need to be engaged to really sell the first things. But you come to a level when you go out, which is much more as brand awareness. So honestly, you can burn your money with brand awareness because you are on events and so forth. But enterprise customers will not be on a quantum event, normally not. So only a small number or on specific events. So the question is more or less, where do you find your right customers and how you can engage with the right customers? What is your right TAM, the total addressing market, the sum, and what are the right opportunities? How you build a funnel with marketing qualified leads, sales qualified leads. What is an industry? What is relevant? Do you know maybe this McKinsey study where you also see that which industry has maybe the earliest implication of quantum technology and which are maybe have you get the most advantage out of this technology in the midterm. So there was finance, there was chemical and so forth. So you have a better understanding which are the target audiences. And then of course we talked about here C-level engagement, how you address maybe not only the strategist when there's already existing, but maybe also how you can go maybe to the level of a C-level to get the right engagement. So is it possible? Is it not possible? And which are the right audiences to do it? So and how you communicate with them with a short time frame, how you get an attention and maybe get a prioritization of their top list of engagements. I think these are questions which you need to answer. And from this standpoint, you need maybe the knowledge, the experience from other fields, looks like in my case, Microsoft and different industries to better understand around how to build up a business looks like that.
Okay, and I think one of the other points that I've seen is, and this ties in with what you said, like the initial sales typically are done by the CEO and the CTO, where they've got a deep passion and understanding about the technology. They really understand how it works. They chase down the opportunities, but then the company starts to grow and people's roles change and adopt. And it's often very difficult for a CEO, a COO, or a CTO to move away from trying to do everything and passing over responsibility to other people. What advice would you give to a quantum organization looking to scale up, where they're at that inception point where, okay, we've identified we need to bring in professional business developers or sales professionals who've got either a network or knowledge from other industries, and let them do their job without being too involved ourselves?
Yeah, look, I think from my perspective, I'm not the founder, but I think this is an interesting journey for each of these deep tech startup founders. Looks like the CEO, CTO. They are hands-on. They love what they do. But I think the job is in a super short time frame, completely changing over the different steps. I talked about this crawling, going, running. So I think the majority, when you have reached 50 people or maybe in the direction of 80 or 100, you have a completely other view of what you need to do, and you need to maybe more spend time on your investors, spend time for hiring people, be engaged for events as a speaker. These are topics which are super relevant to drive the company. So outside, internally, maybe to discuss the strategy, but externally more in these directions. So and even when you are involved with the most relevant deals, or maybe you close the first deals by yourself, you need to hand over this part to a competence which have the right experience and also the right skilling to do it. So, and maybe they are better on this space. You need to also accept that people are maybe they are not physics, but maybe they are better on another area of experiences. Looks like sales, go to market in America as in the US. So there's go to market on the same level as the R&D part. Yeah. Because they know that distribution and how you sell the product is super relevant versus also the technical part. Because the technical part is clear, but the German thinks more as we sell the product because the technology is so great. So the Americans know that you have great technology, but you need maybe the right distribution. So you need to understand how you distribute the products. And from this standpoint, I think accepting, I think this is a specific skill of a CEO of a deep tech company to understand that they need competencies besides themselves that the company can grow to the next level. So and hiring people maybe on C level or a VP level in a company for maybe from 80 people to 200 people and further. Are super relevant to build up a muscle where you have maybe the best resources you can get for driving the entire business. And this means also that you need people for different areas, looks like sales, go-to-market, but also for HR and purchase and so forth.
Yeah. Okay. That has been completely fascinating. I think it's a really exciting journey that we're on from a quantum perspective. And if quantum reaches its capability the way that AI is accelerating developments today, then the future is going to be fantastic, and it's a great journey to be involved in. So I'd like to thank you for taking your time today to share your insights about how to engage with enterprise customers, the journey that you should go on with an enterprise organization, but also some excellent insights into what a founder or C-level person within a quantum organization should be thinking about how they accelerate or grow their business for the future. And I'd just like to thank you for your time and your expert views today.
Thank you, Andy. It was a pleasure to talk to you and to discuss this topic. I think it's super important for me, but I think also for the community from this standpoint. Thank you for having me.
That's great. Let me just stop that now. Recording. Oh.